So the first one I want to talk about is just that brain speeding when you have stopped drinking alcohol. When I'm talking about, this is a comment that somebody gave, and they basically said, when you talk about, hold on, I've lost the comment now. 1 second. We're still not really organized on these things. I set up the software today and it said, oh yeah, why don't you update the software? So I did, and now I can't find our logo or anything like that, but there you go. That's the way of it. Yeah, this one was from Relax with Captain Dustin. He says, when you talk about how your brain speeds up when you're off alcohol or slows down when you're on alcohol, I imagine watching a YouTube video at 1.5 versus 0.5. Is that kind of what you mean? Sort of. I think it's a good analogy, but I think a better analogy for what I'm talking about is if you take a computer software, and you've got all kinds of things that you can do with a computer, a PC anyway. You can have the best type of RAM. You can increase your video card. You can increase your overall memory. You can increase the processing speed of the computer, and you've also got the speed that any information is going to start coming into the program or into the computer. So let's say that you've got the top of the range Wi-Fi connection. Now, if you've got a great computer and you've got a shit Wi-Fi connection, then it doesn't matter how good your computer is. It doesn't matter how fast your processing speed is. It doesn't matter how good your graphics card is. Information is going to come in slowly, and it's going to be processed slowly. And the same is the opposite way around. If you've got a shit computer, and it doesn't matter how fast of an internet connection you've got, the software itself is going to slow down. So for me, it's having a drink, or the drinking brain is like having a slow internal processing. Everything that you do, this is something that you're causing for yourself. The information flow is coming in. I think nowadays, think about the world itself, and everything's coming in through your senses, your sight, your sound, your touch, and there's just that beautiful flow, that beautiful connection coming in, that information flow. But if you are on alcohol, or if you're on any other drug, then that flow, no matter what is coming in, has got to be processed. Your thoughts have got to be processed. And that takes time. So, there's other things like tiredness that can cause it. I mean, when you get up in the morning, you're a lot brighter, and your brain is much more capable of processing information than it is towards the end of the evening when you're tired. When you've gone through a shock experience, your brain sort of collapses a little bit, and the processing will slow down. The same thing if you're running off your emotions. If you're running high off emotions instead of thinking about things, your processing speeds can slow down or can be interfered with. And this is what I'm talking about. We're talking about a bottleneck in your brain system. So you're gonna the rate that you process things, the rate that you process information coming in, the rate that you process your thoughts is going to depend on the weakest link. And if your alcohol causes a weak link in the chain, do you get what I mean? So I think that's probably, I don't know if it's a better analogy. Look, it's all about choices and trade-offs. Every one of us has got the same amount of time in the day, 24/7. And it's what you do with that time that matters. The older you get, the less time that you've got to play with, right? So if you spend your time sitting in a corner playing with yourself, right, you're going to, as opposed to doing something which is going to improve yourself, then your potential, your overall potential is reduced. Now, I look at potential from the perspective of that you have a certain amount of potential as you stand right now. And depending on what you do with the next minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, hour, 2 hours, 2 days, whatever it is, depends on what your potential is going to be. So if you piss away that 2 days, then your potential is reduced by that, because you can't get that back. Do you get what I mean? So, I think when you're trying to get to that best possible version of yourself, your growth potential is all important. The older you get, the more important it is if you want to grow to be the person that you want to be. Then it's a good thing, just to have that. So I think if you think backwards from the best possible version of yourself, in order to get to that best possible version of yourself, you need to be able to think clearly. You need to be able to think smart, to think better, to process better, in order to get to the best potential that you can get. And if you work yourself backwards from that, the more you do to reduce that processing potential, the less you can do with what you've got. And you get a lot of people blame the tools. We're all, you're born with what you've got. You can't change your brain. You can't change, the organics of your brain is what it is. You can't change your height. You can't change, you can change your weight to a certain degree, but there's a lot about yourself that you can't change. You can't change the genes per se, but you can alter by a lot of your lifestyle choices how those genes are expressed. You can change how your life develops, how your potential develops, how the possibilities for yourself, how they come about, or whether or not they come about. And it's, like I said again, choices and trade-offs and the opportunity cost. So if you sit in the corner playing with yourself, the opportunity cost is using that time to as something which is going to create something better for you next week or next year. Do you get what I mean? So alcohol really affects that process, and it affects the thinking, and because it affects the thinking, it affects the actions. Because it affects the actions, it affects the outcomes. And because it's affecting all your outcomes, it's affecting whether or not you get to that best possible version of yourself. So I hope that makes sense. If you haven't subscribed, like I said, hit the subscribe button. We're trying to get to 50,000 subs. And if you want to comment while we're live, then you can hit the join button down below. I'm Kevin O'Hara for habitsv2.com. We help people to stop drinking alcohol and to get to that best possible version of themselves. Take care of yourself, and I'll speak to you again soon. Onwards and upwards.